We're back with another weekly weather update as we take a look at the end of 2024 and some really big changes at the start of 2025. Hope you all had happy holidays, and if you're hoping for a white Christmas, I know not a lot of us got it, but hopefully you did. The 2025, as we really begin the new year, we're seeing the chance for some real winter weather. You kind of get a sneak peek right next to me. Those blue colors coming into the U.S. as we get into 2025 are going to be very abundant. That's your winter air mass settling in. And if you like snow, I think this is going to be an exciting update for a lot of you. So let's jump into the forecast and break down what's ahead as we ring in 2025. So let's take a look under the hood, talk about why the weather is going to function the way it does. And there are some really big players here as we go into 2025 that are going to make things quite cold for most of the U.S. And it all starts here as we move into New Year's Day itself. And we're looking at upper air. So basically, the air above our heads to about 10, 15,000 feet across North America. It's a big picture pattern shift. And what we're seeing here as we begin the new year is a couple big players begin to play out. First of all, we have these bright red colors you're seeing out by Greenland. We call this a block. And when you have some warmer air out there, it actually prevents cold air in the eastern U.S. especially from escaping back north where it lives. So you're able to lock in cold air down here, and that's a big player, but you need a way to get cold air down there anyway. It can be warm in Greenland and warm in the eastern U.S., but that's where we have this coming into play here, another area of warmer temperatures out by Alaska. Now that's big because it allows cold air to basically get pushed across the Arctic, get even colder as it comes into the U.S., and basically you're getting your air masses straight out of the North Pole. And so the other player that we need to see happen is we usually need to have some kind of warmer temperatures out here close to the West Coast. That really, it makes it more efficient, that cold air to really zip in and settle out in the eastern U.S. Otherwise, you could just have a big blob that kind of spreads out through the country. And we're getting that too. So here are your three big players as we head into the first week of January and likely mid-January too. There's your block over Greenland. There's your high pressure near Alaska. And you even have this ridge, as we call it, out here near the West Coast. So now you're getting your cold air masses, like I said, right out of the North Pole. They're snaking down, falling into the entire eastern U.S., even the central U.S. here, basically everywhere except areas west of the Rockies. And that cold air, once it's in the eastern U.S. out here, it is here to stick around. So we're seeing this winter pattern play out on all cylinders, and we really haven't had sustained cold in the east for a while. So this is something that is exciting if you're really hoping for winter weather like we haven't seen in a long time. And if I play this out even farther, here we are moving into the second week of January. That cold air, those blue colors indicating the colder than average air mass more or less, they stick around. And so does our block up here. So we really could lock in this pattern for at least the first half of the month. And that's really setting us up for ample opportunities to get some snow out there as well. So exciting if you're a winter weather lover. Now I'm going to show you some of our temperature anomalies. So what actually happens closer to home here. And this is as we begin the week. You're seeing it's very mild across the U.S. right now. No two ways about that. But as we get into the new year, you're going to see this cold air mass begin to prevail in the north central U.S. And that is the start of our pattern change. This is New Year's Eve. So if you're in the north central U.S., you get a little early taste of this. And as we continue to move this forward into the new year, you're going to see that cold air mass really start to spill and settle into the eastern U.S. So here we are. This is now January 2nd. It is just getting cold in the eastern U.S. We still have this stream of air coming right out of the Arctic, like I showed you, across the north central U.S. And what we're going to see happen is cold air really settles in out here, and we continue to see a train of colder air bursts basically across the north central U.S. So here we are now getting into the first full week of January. There's that cold air sitting in the east, and it's going to park itself there, and you can continue to see some of these blobs moving in as we go into the second week of January. And this is the second week of January at this point, and our pattern holds. Now, I'll say that if you're in the west, you're seeing a lot of these orange colors. That's our ridge, and it's going to be warm, basically Rocky Mountains and farther west. So if you're looking for winter weather, don't go to the Rockies or west. It's going to be mild. It's going to feel more like, it could feel more like November at times out there. But for a bigger chunk of the country, much of the central and eastern U.S. out here, we're talking about temps that are going to be well below our average and going to stay that way. And while we have seen quite a bit of cold in the west in recent winters, we haven't seen a ton of it in the east. So get ready for a new pattern and something that will make that chance for snow a bit higher. So let's take a look at where the storms are going to be and perhaps plan out the potential for any kind of snowfall. We now take a look closer to the surface and see exactly where those smaller scale storm systems will be. And as we begin the week, or really end the new year, you can see a couple systems already out there. We got this guy in the Great Lakes, and you can see a front that's attached to it that's going to be bringing rain to much of the eastern U.S. Actually, that's associated with some pretty significant storms that have occurred recently. And we also have snow that's cutting across the northwestern U.S., some rain coming onto the coastline out here. These are two of several storms we're going to watch as the jet stream allows them to track across the country sort of like this. And you're going to see that pattern play out as we move this forward. There's your rain as we head through Monday. Eastern U.S., mainly the Northeast, will get rain on Monday. Great Lakes, maybe some snow and mixing as well. But that one is really on its way out. You can see our system in the central U.S. as we head into Monday and Tuesday. That's likely to actually bring a decent round of snow to portions of the plains and even the Midwest. So that'll be the first chance for snow, and it won't be a big one, but there will be some out there without a doubt. So here we go through the beginning of the week. That'll eventually bring rain to the east, by the way. And this is New Year's Day. New Year's Eve is where things get a little bit messy. If you're in the, we'll call it mid-Atlantic especially, that's where if you have New Year's Eve plans, you may want to make them inside. In the Northeast, it looks like this will come through a little bit closer to New Year's Day morning and kind of avoid those late evening festivities. But regardless, that system does come through. It may bring a decent snow to the mountains in the Northeast. And on the backside, it's likely to bring some lake effect snowfall as well back to many of our Great Lakes areas, the usual suspects out there. Then we catch a little break in the middle of the week. Here we are Wednesday, Thursday, but this is where our cold air begins to settle in, and that's partially why we're catching a break. You get a lot of dry air, and our jet stream begins to take a dip, sort of like this, and everything in here is going to be cold and dry, but it does set us up for this more active pattern to follow along the jet stream like this, and this is going to be a big player as we head into the first full week of January and talk about storm and snow potential. So let me play this a little farther ahead. Now you can see our next system as we get towards the end of the week. This is around Friday. We have another storm reaching the northwest. That's going to bring a lot of rain and even some snow to the mountains out there, but it's a big player because it's going to follow that jet stream and continue to move eastwards even after it comes ashore. You can see a system developing on the lee side of the Rockies. Here he is, and this is now getting into the middle of the weekend. And here's also where some of our weather models diverge, so I'll tell you about the other scenarios that play out as we track this. And by the way, it's actually a two-part system. This is still its own player out in the northwest. Here we are on the weekend, and now we're getting into next week. This is where things get a little more murky. We're a ways out at this point, so I'm just letting you know that this is a storm we'll be watching, though we really don't know where it's going to go. Some of our data suggests it may slide through the south, and with this setup, with that really cold weather, you can get systems that bring snow much farther south than is typically normal. So here's one scenario. I'll tell you, one of our other weather models takes this thing a bit farther north up the coast. Exactly where it's going to end up, like I said, still very murky. We're looking at the start of next week now, and you better believe as we get towards the weekend, we'll be looking at this much closer. But for now, I would be prepared at least for that January 5th through 7th window for the potential at some snow. Could be some real snow in the east. Exactly how much falls, again, the details we don't know, but this is a sign that we are likely to see some kind of snowfall once or twice in the first few days of January. And as we move this forward, you're going to see we have some more activity that tries to get going at times, like this system out here. There's another weather model that's suggesting we get a system that developed down here, and they kind of ride up the coast. So we're getting into an active pattern and some things to be excited about for sure. We'll show you here really quickly, too, how much rain or snow may fall. And as I move this forward through the week, you're seeing overall precipitation concentrated in the east. Again, this can be rain and snow, so clearly you can have more active weather even with the cold stuff as our pattern shifts. And we have those atmospheric river events in the west, in the northwest especially, that'll bring inches of rainfall. And you can see if I hover this over, we're talking about over the course of this week, another 5 to 10 inches of rain possible on the West Coast. So some very active weather out there that you'll need to stay aware of. Even though temperatures are milder, it's mainly going to be rainfall. You know that rain can cause flooding and other issues. And that really extends from pretty much Northern California through the entire Northwest here. On the east, we're not seeing as much precip here, but on the order of 1 to 2 inches across a good chunk of this half of the country. That's where you're seeing those purple colors. Those red colors indicating bullseyes where you may have 2 to even 4 inches. But how much of that falls as snow we can take a look at as well. And as we move this ahead through the week, we're going to see basically numbers that aren't too significant, at least not in the beginning. But of course, that's going to change as we get into the following week here. And I would I would basically say that the numbers you're seeing out here, that's suggestive of some more elevation, lake effect snow. We're looking at what maybe another foot or two that fall in some of those more mountainous areas or along the lake shores. You can see that all the way into the north central U.S. Of course, you did see in the beginning of the week we get some snow in the plains region. That's this swath right here. It's not a lot, but we're talking about what could be another 1 to 2 inches of snow, 2 to 4 inches in some locally higher amounts in places. And on the west, of course, your mountains are being painted bright colors because that's where we're going to see all of that atmospheric river moisture rise up in elevation and fall as snow. Could be feet once again. So continuing to see the mountains do very well out west, waiting for a good snowfall out east. But what I'll say if I move this forward, the fact that we're seeing some hints of snowfall across a good chunk of the east, and this is not something to take verbatim, but rather it's saying that there's a good chance for some snow to fall. That's a good sign when you see it light up like that. It's suggestive of an active pattern and ample opportunities to see storms. So if you love snow, I love snow. It's hard to hide it. I'm getting excited. Hopefully you do too. If you're in the east, though, make sure to bundle up. Even if you don't get snow, it's going to get cold. And we're talking about cold weather into the south as well. Temperatures that are going to be in the 20s, very far south, even into places close to northern Florida. I wouldn't be shocked if we see 20s knocking the door down there. In the west, though, a bit milder. Just watch out in the northwest. You have more active weather, and it's been a really active stretch, but get ready for more rain, snow in the mountains. And as a whole, this pattern may hold into the middle of January, so we'll be tracking it here, of course. I expect our next video next weekend, we'll do some in between, but our next weekly weather update is going to be focused on the potential for a storm and looking at how long this cold is going to last through January. So until then, hopefully enjoy the weather, stay warm out there, make sure to like, subscribe here. Of course, we do these every week, and if there's a big storm, we'll do a midweek update. And until then, hope the best for the start of the new year for you all. I'll see you next time.